These are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. This is Mark Raymakers here with Insurance Agency Marketing Services. Want to thank you for taking time to join us here this morning for a unique product that John Enting is with us here today as well. He's the one that brought this to us a few years ago, and recognize some of your names on here. You've been with us on this particular webinar before, so welcome back. For those of you, this is your first attendance. I appreciate that. This is a recorded webinar, but this product really truly is a unique one, and John will go through all the nuts and bolts of it, great details for you here today. So as we're going through it, if you have any questions, please go ahead and type those in the question box. We'll address those as we can. And you can expect a phone call from us here to see if there's any questions that you might have. We'll also have an opportunity for you to click on some polls here to get contracted and address a couple of the other things we've got coming up in the webinar this morning, such as this. You'll notice that we're real big on training. And if you look at our webinar calendar, you can see that it is full 5 days a week. Obviously, we think it's important that you stay educated, and this here is a great opportunity for you to continue your education in this 3-day training event. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a poll out here real quick as I explain this. And if you would please, just as quickly as possible, go ahead and mark yes or no, and I'll explain this to you. What we do is IAMS will pay for your airfare, your meals, and your lodging in this 2.5-day training. We fly you in on a Wednesday. Once you get there, we'll do something as far as some short presentations that first evening. We'll also provide you meals and drinks. And then we'll do a full day of training on Thursday, half-day training on Friday, get you back home. Now, what we do is we bring speakers in from across the country, and John will actually be one of the attendees there. He will be presenting. But we also talk about a lot of different sales concepts. It's not about products so much, but we will talk about how you can incorporate different products into sales processes. And so with some of these speakers across the country, they are top producers out there in the industry. They'll share some of their successes with you, what they're doing to be so successful. And we're talking about life and annuity products and concepts. So if you're looking at increasing your business in either aspect, whether it be through the life insurance side of your business or the annuity side, or maybe you want to complement and add more of that to your business, or maybe even, as they say, cross the aisles to incorporate these products into your sales presentation, you can certainly expect that you'll get some great information there. Now, what we do is we'll generally do 3 to 4 of those a year. We do not have anything scheduled this year, but we will start again here in the spring of next year. So if you mark yes, what we'll do is we'll email you an application. We'll email you an agenda so you can see what we're going to be covering. And obviously, with this Department of Labor ruling coming up, there's going to be some changes in our industry, and this is a great way for you to find some things that make you DOL ready, and it's going to have a big impact on our business, and we'll cover that next year when we go through this training. So if you're interested in this, just mark yes. If not, obviously we'll know that you're not, but if you opt to get more information, you can always call our office here. You can see the number is on the bottom of the screen. So would love to have you out there. We pay for your airfare, your meals, and your lodging. If you're not getting that kind of training today, I think obviously this is where you start. You need to stay in the know all the time. Obviously, because if you fall behind on some of these things that are going on, your business is going to suffer for that, and we'd like to make sure that you're up to date with what's going on. So over 70% of you have voted in. I appreciate that. We're going to go ahead and close the poll, as I know your time is valuable. And again, if you're interested, you can certainly give us a call. We'll get you out the application and the agenda. Now, we do have a new producer bonus going on out there. So if you get appointed with us and National Guardian Life here today, what we do is we have 3 different levels, and these 100,000, 300, 500,000 are all going to be on a dollar-for-dollar basis if you look at the annuities or the single premium life. So for today's purposes, we're going to talk about that. Now, we'll also apply these for target traditional life premium as well. Of course, it's not dollar for dollar, it's a percentage of. So let's say you write 100,000 of National Guardian Life, and that's very doable, and John will explain how that works. But if you write a case for 100,000 or 2 or 3, however many it takes, you got a choice between a $750 cash bonus or a 2-year subscription to the website newsletter service. Now, Matt Neal in our office can help you set that up. If you want to just go right into it and set up one without having to write business, he can get you up and running in just one day. So be sure to take advantage of that. If you choose not to take either one of those two, then you can certainly take advantage of the free iPad, and you'll notice that more and more companies out there are coming up with an iPad app. So it makes your life a lot easier. You don't have to worry about missing forms. These iPad apps are just super in that they make sure everything is taken care of before you sign the app. Next, there's the 300,000 level. If you decide to forego the first one, you can choose the full Social Security program and 3,000 piece postcard mailing. Now, you can also buy this if you like, but I'll tell you, if you earn it, there's a lot of agents out there that are taking advantage of it, and they're seeing their business going up. Obviously, you don't make money on the presentations so much as you do about sitting down with them and going through their Social Security and showing them maybe they need to reposition some assets. Maybe they need to take advantage of one of these products John's going to talk about here today. So that's a great program. Or you could choose 2,000 matching marketing money to promote your business, or take advantage of a $1,500 gift card and do as you please. The last level, 500,000 level, we've got two different seminar presentations. The first is a 5,000 piece mailing and seminar coaching with Matt Gill, or 4,000 piece mailing seminar coaching with Dave Pimper. These two individuals are actually at our training event that I talked about here in the previous slide. They do a phenomenal job. They both qualify for all of our trips as well as other company trips, and they're just a great resource if you wanted to take advantage of seminar sales as well. So if you wanted to earn it, you can do that, or you can certainly buy into the program as well. Call our office. I'll give you more details on that. Anyone in marketing can help you with that. Finally, there's the Ritz-Carlton Travel Rewards program. You can make your own getaway if you choose not to take advantage of either one of those two. Okay, real quickly, creative services. This is something we can do for you. And if you're not getting the service and the support that you need, these are some great ways for us to solidify a relationship, not only through our great service, but through the creative services department, what they can do to help you brand your business and get you out there in front of more prospective buyers. You can go anywhere from basic marketing, you can see branding yourself, getting all that taken care of, all the way to television advertisements. So nothing is too big or too small. Would love to help you with that side of your business. If you're not taking advantage of a program like that, I would certainly encourage you to do so today. One last thing I want to mention here before I forget is that we started a double trip credit for single premium life that starts October 15th. So obviously we've already launched that, kicked that off. That will go to November 30th. So any single premium life that you write, that would include this business here, we'll give you double trip credit for our upcoming trip. So would certainly want to make sure that you're aware of that so you can take full advantage of it. Okay, with that said, I'm done with my part. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to John. John, you're still with us?
I am right here, Mark.
Excellent. Thank you so much for taking time to help us here, John.
No problem. Thank you for having me this morning. I appreciate it. And good morning to everybody out there. Obviously, Mark told you today we're going to talk about this National Guardian Life Funeral Trust, and we'll also talk about another exciting trust they have, which is the Estate Planning Trust. So what we're going to cover today is we're going to talk about the opportunity that exists with this product. We'll talk about the trusts that are used by the company to hold the policies and how it gives protection to your clients. We'll talk about the product that we use. It's a life product. And then we'll go over a couple presentation ideas, and we'll also talk about the company itself, which is National Guardian Life. But the first thing I like to talk about is the opportunity, and it's exciting for us here at Inting Financial Services. I'm in the same business that you guys are in. I run a financial service company here in Columbus, Ohio. So I'm seeing the same people you're seeing, probably talking about the same subject matter and helping them getting their planning done. And this product was brought to me about 12 years ago. I didn't know anything about it at all when it was first brought to me, but we implemented it. We started sharing it with our clients, and it turned into a real good story for us because we've been able to help a lot of clients with their funeral trust, and also got a lot of referrals in the process. So you have to consider a couple things. As we all know, we're in the business of planning, and a plan just doesn't happen. You know, there has to be some input. You got to look at what your options are. You got to actually put the plan in place, and then you got to figure out where you're going to get the money at to implement the plan. And as I go through this, I'll give you some ideas on what we do on a daily basis to capture this money and get it over into National Guardian Life. So when you talk about funeral and final expenses, there's really not a whole lot of difference between the two. Basically, someone's going to need to determine the services when someone passes away, and then they have to pay the bill. And the question becomes, who's going to do this, and when are they going to get the plan in place? Now, some of you have been on here before. You've heard this story, but it's a personal story of mine. I dealt with my dad passing away on January 21st of 2011. So he didn't do any planning before he passed away, but it was left to me as a survivor. I'm the youngest of 5 kids. My parents divorced when I was 2, so I wasn't super close with my dad. But I'm the businessman in the family, so I found myself sitting down in a funeral director's office, and he was asking me all kinds of questions like, what was your dad's mother's maiden name? What was his favorite flower, his favorite hymn, his highest rank in the service? And these were questions that I didn't have the answers to. So as I go through this today, I'll show you how we not only solve the planning problem financially, but we can also make sure that the client is prepared, or their beneficiaries are prepared, so that they could walk in and just take care of the planning without going through the issues that I went through. So there's a couple different ways to do this. NGL offers choices. You have the plan and pay for the funeral, which is what they call pre-need. That's when someone would go into a funeral home and pick out their casket and different things, and go ahead and pay for that up front to lock in the price. Or you can pay for the anticipated expenses, and that's the final expense side. That's where we figure out how much money we want to put into the funeral trust. We give it a growth rate, and the client knows that that money's going to be there in the future for their beneficiaries to go ahead and take care of things for them. So I like to look at this next slide because it's really changed a lot. This slide should actually say about 14,500 on it. That's the actual estimated cost now for a funeral. I've had some clients who have passed away here recently, and we're hearing anything from $12,500 to about $15,000 as the cost for a funeral once you add in, the services and the casket and everything else you got to go through with the process. So what we like to do is we like to ask our clients a question, and it can be something as simple as, if something happened to you yesterday, how would your funeral be paid for? This is really just to put a rock in their shoe and get them to talk about what they're planning on doing to have their funeral costs covered in the future. Now, this product is a great opportunity. A national survey was done, and 72% thought it was a good idea to pre-plan, but 64% had not taken any steps to do so. And I can assure you that your clients are no different. I'm working in the same marketplace that you're working in. The difference probably between us and what you're doing out there is we're going to write somewhere in the range of $450,000 to $700,000 of this premium this year, and I'll give you some ideas on how you can get your clients thinking forward and be able to participate in writing that kind of premium as well. So how big is the market? The market's certainly big. We've all seen the numbers. I think the numbers now are 10,000 people a day are turning 65. So by 2025, there are going to be almost twice as many seniors as there are today. So it's a perfect product. You know, I always like to kid around with agents that I speak with at the IMES events and tell them that, you know, we're out there doing income planning and, you know, do you need your penalty-free withdrawal or don't you? And those are all maybes in a lot of circumstances, but with this, one thing's for sure, everybody's going to pass away. So it's a product that has value, and your clients understand that, believe me. Also, the one thing that we talk to our clients about that seems to really get a lot of interest in this particular program is we tell them that, you know, 43% of all Americans older than 65 are going to need some type of nursing care. And the national average cost of that care is well over $70,000. I just talked to a client in Columbus last week they're at about $9,000 a month for their dad in the long-term care facility. Then when you add in that annual growth of what it costs to go into a facility, that number is just going to keep going up and up. And the problem with it is, as we all know, about 93% of people out there don't have any type of long-term care protection in place. So the people who need to qualify for long-term care or want to go into long-term care, a lot of them are going to have to qualify for Medicaid. And that's where we'll talk to our clients about the fact that, hey, if you don't have long-term care insurance in place, let us share with you some ideas of how we can get some money protected today, and also how we can get some money protected for the long term. And we'll go into that as we talk here a little bit further about the trust and how it can benefit your client. So how does this all fit together? Basically what it's going to do is it's going to take the financial protection of life insurance and the advantages of placing that in an irrevocable trust, and it's going to allow your clients to do that planning that we talked about and get those funds set aside so they don't have to worry about it anymore. And then we're going to use the trust to hold the funds for those funeral expenses, and effectively whatever your client puts in the funeral trust is basically protected from any type of a Medicaid spend down situation. So what we're trying to do is just show them ideas if they don't have any protection for long-term care, how to protect some money. And trust me on this, your clients are worried about losing their money in a long-term care situation. Now we'll talk about the trust themselves, and when we talk about the irrevocable trust with National Guardian Life, there's some advantages we get. We get our money's protected from creditors, so whatever we put into that funeral trust, we're going to have 100% protection of those dollars. When the money pays out to the funeral home, it's all going to pay out income tax free, and the funds are available immediately to the funeral home. But the real key here is the trusts are free. So if you have a client who's trying to protect some money, this is a really great opportunity. And when you explain to them that they don't have to go to an attorney and spend thousands of dollars to have a trust drawn up, it really brings them into the conversation. Everyone's going to qualify for the trust assignment. The death proceeds are going to be used for funeral expenses. Again, it's a life insurance policy by nature, so it's going to avoid the probate costs and delays. And here's something that's important. The funds are totally portable. I just did a plan about $30,000 on a couple that is 52 years old, and they don't know where they're going to end up in the future. Their kids, when they go off, that they're already talking about moving south, and they said, hey, we may end up in Florida at some point. And the beautiful thing about this is, because we're not prepaying at a funeral home, these funds can be used at any funeral home anywhere in the country, no matter where they end up living. So here's how the trusts compare against traditional savings instruments. I'll let you guys take a look at that there for just a second. But as you can see, when you compare it against CDs, savings, annuities, or even life insurance itself, traditional life insurance, you can see that every category we're going to get a yes in. And this is a piece that you can actually share with your client. It's in the brochure that you can give them. And when they see that, it really hits home for them. So the next question is, well, this is all great, but how does the trust work? And the trust by nature is pretty simple. Our job is to identify the problem for the client and then help the client find the assets to use to fund the trust. So we're using money from savings, maybe 1035 exchanges. What we're doing is we're buying a single premium life policy. And then what we're going to do is we're going to assign that policy to the irrevocable funeral trust. Now, once we do that, we've protected the funds, and they are going to earn a guaranteed growth rate on that money, and the death benefit's going to continue to grow. And I'm going to back up on the guaranteed. We just call it a growth rate. So they're going to earn that growth rate on the money that's in there. And then when they pass away, what happens is, I've been doing these plans for 12 years, and typically the beneficiary or the child, the spouse, will call us. We'll find out what funeral home that they're going to have their loved one at. We'll reach out to that funeral home. We'll get their fax number. We'll call National Guardian Life with a policy number, and then at that point, National Guardian Life is going to work directly with the funeral provider, and they're going to receive that money within 48 hours. Now, with the funeral trust, if there's any excess funds, those funds are going to be paid back to the estate. And the reason for that is, this money, to be off limits from a Medicaid spend down, the owner of the policy can't have any rights to borrowing from it or cashing it out. So if there's anything left over, it is going to get paid back to the estate of the insured. So the trusts themselves, there's two different ones that are offered from National Guardian Life. The first one that we talk about is going to be that funeral expense trust. I'm going to talk about Ohio because that's where we do the majority of our business. In Ohio, we have a $15,000 maximum that we can put into a funeral trust for each client. So in this particular case, if we had a husband and wife, we could put $30,000 in there. Now what that's going to do is, it's going to get that money off the table immediately and will not be counted as an asset if they are spend down and trying to get Medicaid or SSI. And then what will happen is, the trust is going to pay those funeral costs, and again, any excess funds are going to go back to the estate of the insured. Now, NGL also has another trust, and it's called the Estate Planning Trust. This one you can put up to $100,000 per person. It's going to give you the ability to exclude the assets also, but it's going to be after the 5-year look back. So example, put $100,000 in today, the client gets through 5 years of having that money in there, goes into a nursing home, that money that's in that estate planning trust is 100% protected from the nursing home. It will actually go to a beneficiary. Same thing would be if they had it in there for 3 years and they passed away, the money's going to pay out to a beneficiary. They'll use, if your funeral hasn't already been paid for, the funds will be used to pay the funeral expenses first, and then the excess funds will come back to the beneficiary of the insured's estate. So the next question I typically get from agents, especially at the academy, is they'll pull me inside and they'll say, well, you know, when do I use which trust? I like the idea, I like the concept, but how do you know what to do when you go in a home? It's really pretty simple. With the funeral expense trust, if we're in crisis planning, because with this you can have a spouse who's already in the nursing home, and the at-home spouse can still buy this plan for the person who's in the nursing home, and it'll exclude that $15,000 immediately from being spent at the nursing home. Maybe Medicaid's possible in 5 years. You're dealing with someone that's elderly, they've had some health issues. You know, they may go into a nursing home with the next 5 years, and they're going to have to go through Medicaid spend down. The funeral trust is a perfect plan for that. Or maybe you get the client like I just had, the younger couple that said, look, we just want to put the money away, know that it's protected today, know that it's getting a growth rate, and that if we pass away, our kids don't have to worry about what to do. So that's perfect for the funeral expense trust. But the estate planning trust, maybe you're dealing with someone like a couple teachers I dealt with that are completely healthy. They're 64 years old. All they wanted to do was make sure they could get the most money down to their daughter and son, so we put $100,000 each into the estate planning trust. We know that unless there's just a horrific accident or something, that we're probably going to get through that 5-year look back, and then they're going to get that wealth transferred to their children easily and not worry about a nursing home getting that money. And that's the real opportunity with this product. The funeral expense trust is awesome, but that estate planning trust is where you can really pick up a lot of dollars. So the product that we use to fund the trust is real simple. It's called the NGL Asset Guard. We'll take a little bit of look at what the product details are. In its basic form, it's a fixed rate life product. We're gonna get that. We're gonna get a growth rate, and then we're gonna put that policy into the funeral trust. It's gonna give us that increasing death benefit, but it's also gonna give us that financial protection that we're looking for on the dollars. Now, individual state limits, I can see there's a lot of people on here this morning, so probably in a lot of different states across the country. This is what your area looks like as far as a state limit of what you can put into the funeral trust, and this is for the funeral trust only. This is not for the estate planning trust. The estate planning trust, any state you're in, you can do $100,000 per person into that trust. I always encourage you, when you become licensed with National Guardian Life, they have a great sales support desk. Call them. Just make sure you have the updated number for your state so that you don't end up trying to put 15,000 and maybe you live in Iowa and you can only put 11,566. So good to know that information beforehand. The next slide, Mark, we can go ahead and skip that one. That's not going to make a difference to us today. What expenses are paid for by the Irrevocable Funeral Trust? As you can see on there, just about everything that we would want to have paid for at a funeral is going to be covered. The one thing on there, too, you'll see the transfer of the deceased. If someone lives here in Ohio and they're on vacation in Florida and pass away, you've got to get the body back to Ohio, and that's an expense, and it would be covered here under the funeral trust. So for today's conversation, because this is all we do at Intang Financial Services, we only do the single premium. And with the single premium, your minimum face amount is $500. Your maximum face amount is $100,000. Now I'm going to touch on that a second. If you've got someone that says, wow, I like the funeral trust, I want to go ahead and max out that $15,000 and get it protected, but I also like to put some in the estate planning trust, at that point they could put $85,000 into the estate planning trust. You can't be over $100,000 between the two trusts. Then you're going to be able to pick your growth rates up to 2.25%, and yes, you will be able to pick your growth rate. There's one health question on the application. Everybody is going to qualify. It just depends on whether they're going to be a guaranteed issue or they're going to be a standard issue. So the Asset Guard issue ages, you can see we do the single pay. We can write anybody from 0 to 99. So it's a pretty wide open area as far as being able to pick up premium. You don't have a bunch of limitations on age there. Now, one health question, again, no, it's going to be standard issue. Yes, it's going to be guaranteed issue. The only big difference you're going to see there is in your commission. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit lower if we're doing a guaranteed issue versus a standard issue for the client. Again, it's going to increase daily with simple growth. So we're going to get an immediate full death benefit. If we put it in there and that client passes away in 6 months, that full benefit is going to pay out to the funeral home if we're using that funeral trust. So some of the other product features that we have, I call this a bell and a whistle. I personally don't put it onto the plan, but you can certainly add it on there if you want. It's a child-grandchild rider. Basically, if you have a $500 to $3,000 face amount, whichever amount is lower. So if you bought a $500 plan and you pay a $10 one-time fee, you can cover all your children and grandchildren 6 months to 18 years of age and it only covers one of them. So example, I've got a $3,000 policy. I take out this rider. I've got 8 grandchildren. One of them passes away. It's going to pay $3,000 for that grandchild, and then the rider is over. It's only available at time of issue, and it's only available on single pay. But the thing I love the most about this program, and I'm actually leaving the webinar today to go to my other office to write one on a gentleman, is it couldn't be easier to do. It's literally 2 pieces of paper and your state replacement form, and you are done with the application. It's a 15-minute process. And I'm going to show you what that application looks like. So here is what the front page of the form looks like. This is the top half of it. And I believe as we get back through here, we'll have the health question blown up a little bit more for you. But that's the first part. There's the bottom part where they sign and where you're going to sign off as the agent. The next page is going to be the receipt. If you pick up cash from them, you're going to leave them that receipt so that they know that they have the payment in hand. And then you also are going to have your disclosure. Depending on which product you write, you're either going to do the funeral expense trust disclosure, or you're going to end up doing the estate planning trust disclosure, but that's it right there. So what happens is when you buy this policy, and you can leave it right there, Mark, when you buy this policy and they receive your money, typically what they do is they wait 45 days after issue, and then they assign the policy to the trust. But as you can see here, that if you have an applicant that you need to do this now, they're talking about going to try to qualify for Medicaid, or maybe the spouse is in the nursing home and you want it in that trust immediately, this at the bottom of the application, you can waive the 45 days and they will put that contract in there immediately so that that money is off the table for the Medicaid spend down. So if you're in a crisis situation, they've made it pretty easy to help you out in that. The health question, we don't have the health question up there. The health question is pretty simple. We'll go back there and take a look at it. You can see it down there. It's a yes or no question. The beautiful thing is it doesn't matter whether they answer yes or they answer no. They're going to qualify for the program. And you can see there, I say this carefully. There is not a suitability form with this product, but as we all know, we should always do what is in our client's best interest and what is suitable for our client, but there is not actually a form you have to fill out. I just showed you all the paperwork that's involved with getting this product issued. So we'll talk a little bit now about presenting to the client. Let Mark catch up there. There we go. So again, you can have the best product in the world, the best idea in the world, but if you're not sharing it with people, then it really is no value to you or to your client. So what we always tell the people that we're working with is, this is a great product, especially if you're new to this program. You certainly want to understand the basics of it, but if you're doing annual reviews with your client, it is simple as asking your client, have you prepaid your funeral? It's a yes or no question. If they tell you that they've prepaid it, then you can kind of pivot in, well, do you have additional money you would like to protect? And you can start talking to them about that estate planning trust. But the thing is, you got to bring it up and you've got to ask the questions and discuss the need. When you present it, you want to present the benefits of planning ahead, and also this is very important. You need to let them know, hey, you can use this at any funeral home, because you can look in your area and you can Google funeral homes that have went out of business, funeral homes that have misappropriated funds that were prepaid at the funeral home, and there's some real horror stories out there. With this one, the insurance company's holding the funds, so we know it's safe, and then when that time comes, it can be used at any funeral home. And you can 1035 exchange existing life insurance. Now I'm going to touch on this for a second, because I have an agent who I just had a conversation with Friday. He's been licensed for a while with the plan. He knows this Department of Labor ruling is coming up, and he's trying to build other income streams for his agency. And he had a great story. He said he was out talking to a client, and he had a life insurance policy. He said, hey, why don't we review that? It was a $70,000 death benefit. When they called the company, the cash value was $68,000. So he explained to the client that the client really only had $2,000 worth of life insurance because the other $68,000 was his money. So what he did is he did two applications with a cover letter and a 1035 exchange form. He put $15,000 into the funeral trust, and he put the balance into the estate planning trust. So he did a really nice job for the client. He protected what he could today, and he protected that cash value from being spent at a nursing home in the future. So a lot of opportunities with those 1035 exchanges out there. And then again, like he did, it's all great in theory, but you got to close the sale. You really, believe me, I've done tons of these programs. The client truly has peace of mind of knowing that they've planned ahead and that the funds are protected, and it's appreciated to the point that you'll actually get referrals from them. So where do we find the money? The money is already out there. It's in CDs, money markets, other insurance, annuities, investments, savings accounts, cash. Wherever they have their money at, when I talk to a client about this, I actually tell them in the sales process that, hey, if you really think about it for a minute, we're really not even buying anything. We're repositioning our money to protect it from a nursing home. You already have the money. Let's find out where we can get it from to get it over to the non-countable side of assets for a nursing home situation. And the clients are very open to hearing that for you. So the clients already have the funding. It's not new money. You just have to get good at moving them forward on where to get the cash to do the plan. So with National Guardian Life, the two brochures that I use are the ones on the left and the right of the green one. So these brochures are so simple. They're a trifold. They're very layman's term to the client. I always like to share this story. I have a client about 10 minutes from my office. They had a life insurance policy with Nationwide. Same thing, high cash value. The death benefit was getting close to the cash value. I went out and met with them. They said they wanted to think about it. I left them the brochure, and when someone tells me they want to think about it, I tell them that's fine, but I'm going to call them the next morning. So before I could call them the next morning, they called into my office and said, hey, we want to get the appointment set. We want to move forward. And it wasn't anything other than I gave them time to think, and I left that brochure with them, and it's very simple to understand. So you can also get these done with your company information on them, so you can leave them as leave-behinds at places as well. So National Guardian Life, again, I love this company for a couple different reasons. Number one, we all judge a good insurance company by, are they going to be there when we need them for what we've paid to get done? And I've had clients who have passed away with this program. I assure you, within 48 hours, that money is at the nursing home, the funeral home. So they do what they say they're going to do. They're very well capitalized. They've been in business for over 105 years. So we're dealing with a good company, and this is what they specialize in. They're not out doing 20 different things. This is their specialty in the marketplace. Now this next slide should be a picture of the actual agent website, but it doesn't look like this. If you go to the agent website when you get licensed, it is very comprehensive. Everything you could need to know, from your apps to your brochures to selling strategies to state limits. But the really nice thing about it is there's a 1-800 number for the agent, and if you're sitting in a client's home and you have a question, you can call, and you know you're not going to get put on hold. You're going to get a live answer from somebody. So it's very valuable. If you get licensed, I'd highly encourage you to keep that number in your phone. So why sell the product? Again, your clients, I showed you the stats, they need it and they're thinking about it. A great income opportunity. You can easily add $40,000 at a minimum to your bottom line, and then as much as you want above that, depending on how hard you want to work and if you're asking everybody every day. The trusts are free, So there's no fees with this, and there's no other professionals advising your clients. Keep in mind, I've been doing this 12 years. Do you know that not one time has a client ever told me, and I ask them, has anyone talked to you about this before? No one has ever told me yes. So it's definitely a great opportunity. I talked to you about the portability of the funds with any funeral home provider. We talked about the company, peace of mind to your clients, and 2 pieces of paper in your state disclosure form for replacement, and you're in business right in the application. So I like to use this model because it's very true to what happens with this plan. If you just had 2 couples each month and you only did $10,000 into each funeral trust, I always highly encourage everybody to max it out. It's a great protection. But in this, let's say we did $10,000 of premium on 20 couples in a year. That's over $40,000 to your annual bottom line. And again, if you're in the annuity business right now, you need to be looking at other income streams. It is going to serve you well moving into the future. So here's a little look at what the 2% growth rate. Again, at my company, we offer everybody 2% across the board. You don't have to do that. You can pick a rate. One of the agents I talked about, he said, you know what? I think 1.5% is very fair in today's interest rate environment. So whatever that is, but on this one at 2%, if you had those couples I was talking about and they were even 66 to 70 years old, that's an 11% commission. And then as you move to the younger ages, you can see, I told you I just wrote the 30,000 on the 52-year-olds. You know, it's 16% commission. So great opportunity for an income stream that can really benefit you. You can go on there, Mark. So some of the biggest challenges, I'll just hit on this quickly. I always like to tell the story. You know, I'm an annuity producer. I've produced at a high level for a very long time. But I remember in 1993, I was sitting across the table in a town called Marion, Ohio, and a guy slid me a check for $25,000, and I couldn't believe it. I sold my first annuity. I'm not even positive I knew what I was doing. But what happened was, I got my first one, then I got my second one, and now here we are in 2016, and I could probably teach a class on annuities. But the thing is, I got comfortable with the concept, I understood it, and I presented it to my clients. This product is no different. You got to learn how to present. You got to stress those benefits of the pre-planning, but more importantly, keeping it on the top of your mind every client every day. How hard is it to ask somebody, have you prepaid your funeral? It's a very simple question. You're going to get a yes or no answer, and then you'll know how to move forward off of that answer. So we at Intang Financial Services, about 5 or 6 years ago, we created a guide for beneficiaries. And what happened in our particular case is we didn't want anybody calling the bank when someone passed away or calling another broker. We wanted that call to come to us so that we could work with the clients in settling the claims and working with the money again. We didn't want to lose those assets. So I developed this guide, and basically it's real simple. We used it to collect data. So we went out to all of our clients. We collected all the data. It was a very detailed sheet. And what was interesting with it was our successes from doing it. Believe it or not, clients don't tell you everything they have, and I found that out in a big way because we ended up writing an additional $1.5 million in annuity premium. We picked up a couple $100,000 in single premium life and about $150,000 to $200,000 in National Guardian life products. So a lot of success with it. Again, practice makes perfect. You have to, whatever idea you have, you got to implement it, and you got to do it day in and day out if you want to be good at it. Just like you know, LeBron James didn't wake up a good basketball player. He put the time in and the effort, and you see where he's at today. So again, practice is going to make perfect. The guide for the beneficiary itself, When you license with National Guardian Life, IMES will make this available to you so that you can put your own company name in there, and that you can get these printed up and use them when you go do your reviews. If you look at the next page, this is what the organizer looks like. And again, this would be part of that file that they would send you. So this is all basic information on the top, but if you look at the next page, and if everybody can see question number 8 on here, go one more for me, Mark. There, go again. We're getting there.
There we go.
There we go. So question 8, have you prepaid your funeral? Again, it's such a simple question, but it has propelled us here at Entain Financial Services to consistently write a lot of premium with National Guardian Life. So again, this organizer, once that you're licensed with National Guardian Life, they can certainly make that available to you at IMES. Oh, you got it all on there.
They put the whole thing on there, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. So basically, so that's really the end of the presentation as far as I have. If you have any questions, I think, Mark, you can kind of take it from there on the questions. I will say this to you before I turn this over to Mark. What we started doing is if you are a licensed National Guardian Life agent, we do a private training, which we will be doing, I believe it's next Monday.
Correct.
It's for licensed only agents where I really kind of go in and break down in detail different cases and what we've done and try to give you some ideas to broaden your horizons. So again, Mark, I'm sure once you're licensed, we'll get that email out to you. It's exclusively for licensed agents.
Yeah, and I'm just going to throw this out there real quick too, is that John has been a top producer, qualifies for the trip, so obviously he knows what he's doing. And really, if you really want to see a great presentation on how to close more deals or just get started, you certainly don't want to miss this one. So what I'm going to do real quick is, as John mentioned, this is going to be one for licensed agents. So I'm going to put out a quick poll out there. What I'll do is, after you mark yes to get appointed, I'll email you the contract. I need to have that in by Friday of this week so that we can get you the invitation for next week's presentation on Monday. So here's a few questions, John. We have first question is, with a funeral home, you lock in the cost. How does this product address inflation?
That's perfect. So what we do is you can lock in costs, and it's a big misconception with funeral homes. So there are costs that can be locked in at a funeral home, but there are a lot of costs that you can't lock in at a funeral home because they don't know what that pricing looks like in the future. And we've heard stories from clients that they prepaid at a funeral home for their spouse, then they went back and they needed another $3,000 to $4,000 from the client for things that weren't locked in on the prepay. So what we tell them is, hey, look, funerals right now are running $12,500 to $15,000. Let's max fund this funeral trust at $15,000, and then we're going to give you a growth rate, and that growth rate is going to be simple interest credited daily, so that we can try to keep up with the cost of a funeral into the future. So that's how I would address that.
Okay. And some of you are probably thinking, well, my clients, I've sold them life insurance before, and it's one of those points that John will cover in the upcoming webinar. So, for yourself, you're probably thinking, well, why should I do this if I have insurance already? Well, he'll address that issue. So keep that in mind. This is a complementary product that you add on. Well, John, here, someone asked what the medical question is. We can certainly address that offline. So, John, I can call you and discuss that with you later, because I don't think either one of us has that question memorized, although you've written it so many times you might.
Well, I can tell you that I can look right here if you would like to know it real quick. It's not an issue for me. I think I've got it. Give me just a second here. I'll go ahead and answer that one for you. So it says, are you currently on oxygen, hospitalized, receiving hospice care, residing in a nursing home, long-term care, residential care facility, or group home? past 2 years, have you been advised by a medical professional to have any surgical procedure that's not been performed? Or have you been treated, or are you being treated by a medical professional for congestive heart failure, heart disease, stroke, cancer, immune system disorder, cirrhosis of the liver, drug or alcohol dependency, kidney failure, chronic obstructive pulmonary, emphysema, diabetic, coma, insulin, or shock? If the answer is no, they're going to get standard. If the answer is yes, they're going to get guaranteed, and they're still going to get the program.
Okay. Then Bo asks, just to be clear, is the 15,000 or the 100,000 limit the amount of the death benefit or the premium?
Premium.
Okay. And next question. I'm in Columbus. I work a few blocks from your Dublin office. Can I talk to someone in person?
Absolutely. You can reach out to Mark. Will get you my information for my Dublin office. I also have one in Baltimore, Ohio, and that's where I'm at today. But he can get you my information. If you would like to reach out to me, we can certainly do that.
Okay. And then Jay asks, is there a lead program?
Well, Jay, that's a great question. We've actually tried a couple different lead pieces, and we haven't had a lot of success with it, but we are working on another one that we're going to try, so I will keep people updated. Believe me, if we get one that we feel is monetarily sustainable to the agent, we'll be the first ones to get that out to you. We feel we will be able to do it, but it's just taken some trial and error for this. And I've never worried about lead pieces because I've always talked to my clients. I also do seminars, and I get a lot of opportunity to meet with a lot of people. So that is my lead program. But we understand for agents it can be very critical, and we're working on that.
And then let's see, Joe asks, why are there multiple rate commission choices? Doesn't this conflict with clients' best interest?
Well, again, that's a great question, and that is why I particularly just pick one rate and give it to my clients across the board. And that's what we do just to stay out of that conflict.
And let's see. Dana asks, if the client is putting into the funeral trust single pay for $15,000, then why is this a life product and not an annuity?
Well, I'm not sure I completely understand that question, but it is a life policy. So they're putting it in as a life policy. And if it were an annuity and that annuity was put into a funeral trust, all the growth in that annuity would be taxable at death. And with this, it's not. It's tax-free, just like a life insurance policy should be.
Yeah. Well, the question box is empty. If anybody has any others, please type those in. And, you know, John, I got to tell you real quick, early on when I was messing with the different slides, this is kind of funny. We have someone that you and I know very well who is a Michigan resident and wanted me to pass on that both of us our teams are very lucky to win this weekend. So
I like it.
Yeah, I do too. So of course his team won, but anyhow, yep. So looks like the question box is empty. I thought I'd throw a little bit of humor in there while we're waiting for additional questions. So anyhow, with that said, folks, again, this was recorded. I can email this over to you. For those of you who did ask for a contract, I'll email that to you as well. Just complete that, get that over to me. And it looks like we did have a question that popped in there. So Joe is asking, does $15,000 buy $15,000 idle coverage plus growth?
It actually does, and that's a great question, Joe, because typically, and I'm just throwing this number out there, if you do someone that's in their 60s and you put $15,000 in, you'll actually probably start with about $15,250 or $275. There is a little bump right there at the beginning, and then that full amount gets the growth rate.
Yeah. Okay. All right. It looks like we're clear. I'm going to go ahead and we'll wrap up here this morning. I will be reaching out to you to see if you have any questions. If you need some help getting started, keep in mind, again, those that are contracted, we'll get you an invitation for next Monday's webinar. And John, thanks so much again for helping. I know you take time out of your day. You don't schedule any appointments to help us with this. So thank you again for your help. And For all of
Thanks
you
for
out there.
having me.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And I say thanks for having me, and thank you everybody for attending. I know if you're like me, Monday's busy, so I do appreciate you taking your time.
Absolutely. Thank you all. We'll be in touch with you shortly. Have a great week.